So we're going to try to do this as a live recording. I just turned the recording on, and basically when you're trying to do an online presentation, what you would do is you do it like a PowerPoint, or at least with the idea of it being a PowerPoint. And usually when most people do PowerPoint demonstrations, they spend a little bit of time up front letting people get acclimated to their computers, but not always. Sometimes if you're meeting with a group and you meet like every day, or you meet once a week or something like that virtually, what they'll do is people will kind of log on, and in some meetings, if you're not logged in at 8, they're going to just start. It's supposed to start at 8, they just go. And so it's something you've got to be aware of. It starts like this. You've got the co-host you've got the host of the meeting who gives you co-hosting responsibilities. And that's done pretty easily. I just go up to right here and I just hit this button, and oops, and it being Zoom, it does all kinds of different things. But what it's supposed to do, it's supposed to come up a little thing that says, I can make you a co-host. There it is. So it says right here, it says make co-host. So I would make you the co-host, and that would allow you to do what I'm about to do, which is to call up something else on my screen. So you are now a co-host, not that it matters because you're not going to be doing anything, but you would be able to do what I'm about to do now. I'm going to do a share screen, and I'm going to have, here's my choice of things to look at. These are all the things that are on my desktop happening right now. As you can see, I've got my YouTube channel right here. I've got my email right here. I've got a PowerPoint here, and I've got a mass communications PowerPoint here. So this is just a PowerPoint that I pulled at random. It comes up. I make it a slideshow presentation. I've got to get this out of the way. I do that. I make it a slideshow. And oops. And of course, it doesn't behave like we'd like it to. It's usually when you say slideshow, it comes up and it asks you, where do you want to start? I don't know why it's not doing it here.
Maybe if you do view.
What's that?
Maybe if you do view.
The view?
Yeah.
No, I'm just getting that sound, which I wasn't getting earlier. Let me just check this. I should have hosting duty, so I should be able to do this. Let's see. Yep, that's fine. Okay. Let's see if I can get rid of a few things. There it is. This is offering me an upgrade. So I'm going to say later. And now, well, let's do it with this one. We'll see if this one works. So as imperfect as this is to start off, as imperfect as it was, it is a good lesson because weird things happen. And the rule of thumb is, as always, and I think I've said this before, the one bad decision you make is when you let it throw you off. So this is giving me a, there we go, get that out of the way. I'd like to minimize this, but can't quite figure out how to do that. So until I figure out that, I'll just move this up the top to get it kind of out of the way. As you can see, this is from a mass communications class. And so the images that I get from my PowerPoint are now showing up on the screen. And what most people do is they just put a kind of a truncated, a shorter PowerPoint up. and there are just a couple of slides. And some people say you speak for 3 to 4 minutes per slide. Other people will say that you basically just do it as a PowerPoint. I think 3 to 4 minutes is for a longer PowerPoint. And in general, you don't want to overwhelm people with slides, but you do want to you want to use the slides efficiently to convey what you want to convey. So if I'm talking about newspapers, as I am for this presentation, I would get up and I would, first I would kind of establish myself, and I would talk about myself while I had the either in a separate slide or while I had this up, this cover slide up. And then I would go into newspapers and I would talk about, as you can see, I've got a timeline down at the bottom. I've got a graphic in the middle, and I've got text that relates to the graphics, along with a title right at the top that says newspapers. So I would come up, and this would come up, and I would talk about it for a while. Apparently, this must be an unfinished. It must be an unfinished slideshow, because I don't know what the ONI means. But I would basically talk over the slides for the rest of the presentation, and I'd be done. What some people will do is they will actually read from a script once they, once they've got it written. They'll read to it, but they'll have the script down, so it doesn't necessarily sound like they're reading. It just sounds like they're speaking very smoothly about, in this case, it would be newspapers and other mediums. And that's basically the way you do a PowerPoint presentation. You don't have to look at the screen because you're not on the screen. You only have to be loud enough for the microphone to pick you up. That can be an issue if you have a bad mic, or if you've got bad microphone techniques. But that's basically how you do an online presentation. You run it from this bar right here. You hit the share, which gets you to share. And then when you're done, or when you want to get your mug on here, you go to stop share and you will appear again. Now at this point, you want to look directly at the camera, because even though you're losing this connection with the other people in the screen, you appear to have a connection because you're giving them eye contact on the camera. So the things to remember are, you get the co-hosting duties, you hover down the bottom, and up will come a control board. You hit share screen, which is a green button. Up comes the screen, and then you basically talk over the PowerPoint, and you pretty much deliver it just as you would deliver a regular speech, or maybe a regular PowerPoint speech. You try not to have too many words. You try to talk about each slide as it goes. You expect mistakes. A lot of weird things happen in online meetings. And one piece of advice that I've heard is that when you do an online meeting and you are going to have some face-to-face time, as we have right here, you want to be always be aware of your light on your face. No light coming from behind you, because that can be distracting. And you want to have a background that you can live with, because you don't want people's memories of your speech to be big piles of dirty laundry, or something weird in the background. So you try to have a background that's sort of interesting. I have a friend who's got a podcast about, have you read those books that are behind you in your, the basic point is, have you actually read the books that are behind you in the podcast? And, or are you just putting them behind you to be impressive? So anyway, that's the goal. The goal is always to give a good presentation, to establish your credibility, to have an introduction that establishes your credibility and also interests the audience in your topic. It's always to have good reasoning and good logic all the way through. And it's always to have a good takeaway that people will remember, because of what we call the recency effect, which is basically the last thing you hear will be the first thing you remember. So you want to have all of those elements in the PowerPoint, and in the PowerPoint, which is used in the online presentation.
Are we doing that, though?
Say it again?
Are we doing it?
That's what I'd like you to do. That's what I'd like you to do. And it's going to be 3 to 5 minutes long, so not particularly long, not a whole lot of slides. I just want you to go through the process of putting it together and also executing it. Because as you'll see when you do it, Glennie, it'll be a little awkward. It'll be a little awkward, but you'll be great. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent.